Thank you, Dr. Jill Biden, for putting Columbus on the map. Thank you for investing in education, technology, and enhancing the skilled labor workforce. We are growing Ohio's economy from the middle out and the bottom up. Ohio's 3rd Congressional District has been a hub of innovation, and today's Workforce Hub launch, naming Columbus as one of the key hubs, solidifies what my constituents and I have always known. President Biden's investing in America's agenda has no greater place to thrive than right here in Columbus. In fact, I was just here with Mayor Ginther a few weeks ago announcing a historic partnership between Columbus State Community College and Ohio Health. This $120 million investment is transforming a way to provide more affordable and inclusive careers in healthcare, while also ensuring that growing the workforce talent needs will be met for years to come. Historic legislation President Biden signed, including the Science and Chip Act, the bipartisan infrastructure law, just to name a few, is making good on President Biden's promise to build back better. You may applaud on that. Right here in Ohio, the CHIPS and Science Act will provide critical investments in the semiconductor industry, which will greatly benefit all of Central Ohio. And as a member of this community, and during my time in Congress, ensuring equitable opportunities and outcome for those I serve has always been my priority. The Biden-Harris administration understands this and understands that large federal investments is the power bestowed on us. So that is why I am proud to have traveled here with the First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden, and I am proud that the President signed the CHIPS and Science Act, which I might add, included 2 of my amendments, creating dollars and creating the Office of Opportunity and Inclusion. So Dr. Biden, Mayor Ginther, and to all in attendance here, as I know the President would want me to say, now let's just finish the job, because I'm Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, and I approve this message. Now please join me in welcoming the best mayor, as I like to say, my mayor, no other than Mayor Andy Ginther. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. What a great day here in the city of Columbus. Just grateful for our Congresswoman, the best Congresswoman in America, Joyce Beatty, who brought the First Lady of the United States to our city today from Washington. She flew the plane in more ways than one. We know that CHIPS Act wouldn't have gotten done without Joyce Beatty, and we thank God for all of her efforts. To President Hardin and Columbus City Council, to our esteemed panelists who we're going to get to in just a minute to pick their brains about best practices around workforce development, job opportunities for our residents, and for those who are seeking opportunity in this new economy. We're thrilled to have part of the White House initiative around the Workforce Hub here in Columbus. We've emerged as a center of investment across a variety of industries, including semiconductor manufacturing, clean energy, and transportation. In partnership with Intel, the Ohio Semiconductor Collaboration Network is developing curriculum for 2-year pathways, including dual enrollment models to semiconductor technician roles to be shared across the nearly 24 community colleges in the state. Intel wouldn't have happened without the CHIPS Act. The legislation signed into law by President Biden last August will provide a more than $50 billion boost to the U.S. semiconductor industry. The funding will in part support Intel, There are 2 new facilities, which is expected to bring 20,000 jobs to the state. The City of Columbus pioneered a model to diversify construction registered apprenticeships, which is now being replicated elsewhere in the nation through a Department of Labor-funded partnership between Trades Futures and the National Urban League. It's great news to make sure our residents are prepared to take advantage of all of the growth coming to our region. This is an amazing opportunity for us to give young people and adults in our community incredible chances to make some transformational training opportunities and take advantage of some of these jobs that are being created here by Intel, Honda, Hyperion, and so many others here in Central Ohio. In short, so much of the growth and possibility we're seeing in our city, in our region, and I would argue America, is because of the Biden administration. There has never been a more pro-city, pro-job, and pro-union administration in our history. And so I'm thrilled to introduce to you and welcome to the great city of Columbus, Dr. Jill Biden, our First Lady.
Thank you, Mayor Ginther. Columbus is stronger with your leadership. And Congresswoman Beatty, Joe is lucky to have a partner like you in Congress, and we're grateful for all that you do. And Council President Hardin, thank you for hosting us in this beautiful space. And I want to say thank you to all the educators who are here today. I love that you all came, so thank you for that. And the entire City Council, along with the Columbus Workforce Hub partners and other leaders joining us, have done extraordinary work to make the programs we're talking about possible today. Joe's father used to say, a job is a lot more than a paycheck. It's about dignity. And Joe watched his dad struggle to find good work. And he saw how a job could change a family's path. And I saw it too. My dad came from a family of Italian immigrants, and his father delivered furniture for a living. And thanks to the GI Bill, he was able to get a degree and carve out a good life for my 4 sisters and me. And Joe understands the middle class because we're from the middle class. And he's working to build the economy from the middle out and the bottom up. I'm sure you've heard Joe say this a million times. And he's strengthening communities like Columbus by fueling a nationwide manufacturing boom and creating new opportunities for hardworking families. His leadership has helped transform our economy with more than 13 million jobs created. Thank you. Unemployment is now under 4%, and billions invested in growing industries like clean energy and engineering. And today we're seeing what that looks like in real life. More than 10 years ago, when I was second lady, then Secretary of Labor, Hilda Solis, and I kicked off a community college to career bus tour right here in Columbus. I don't know how many of you remember that, but oh, a lot of you, good. We lifted up investments that were helping community colleges train workers for the skills they need to get jobs that pay well. And so it feels fitting to be, back here to kick off yet another tour and showing how my husband is investing in America and working in cities like yours to build on that progress. Today, just like the mayor said, Columbus is a leader in semiconductor manufacturing, electric vehicles, and biotechnology. And these industries are growing every single day. But in order to keep this progress going, employers need more skilled workers. So with the support from Joe's administration, Mayor Ginther, Columbus State Community College, and other leaders here are committing to quadruple the number of students trained for technical jobs. So to help with that effort, the college is working with Intel to launch a new one-year certificate program. I love that. And 5 local unions, I love that too, as a union member myself, have made commitments to expand their registered apprenticeship programs and training facilities to meet the growing demand for job training. In May, the White House selected Columbus as one of the 5 cities in what we are calling the Biden Workforce Hub Initiative. And through this initiative, we're focusing on key cities that have received significant investments from both the federal government and private companies. And just like here in Columbus, the Biden-Harris administration is working with local leaders, community colleges, unions, and employers to develop new training pathways to the good careers created by those public and private investments. As a community college professor myself, I just signed my new contract. I'm sure many of you did out there, right, for the fall. I'm so excited to see how this work changes people's lives here in Columbus and in other hub regions. So in the next few weeks, I will visit, most of these cities, I think, to see their work up close. So guess what? I'm going to be back. I'm coming back to see what you're doing, share your progress, and lift up and share, what you've been doing with the rest of the country. Columbus and these hubs will be invaluable models for others. And I can't wait to shine a light on what's possible when we come together with education and training. Because for most people, a high school diploma alone isn't enough to find a great career. But that doesn't mean that there's only one path to success. Students can take, you all know this, students can take courses in high school, right? And then they can enroll in registered apprenticeships to earn associate degrees. And the Biden education pathway starts with free, high-quality, universal preschool. Yes. I know, we have to get it where they start, right, where the kids start, and creates a high school experience that prepares students for their next step. It provides 2 years of affordable community college and opens up avenues to a 4-year degree if that's what the students decide, because it's the future of our workforce and how we strengthen the middle class. Things like unemployment rates and the jobs created aren't just numbers. They represent people. They represent our students. Families just trying to make a good life. Like Joe's family, like mine, maybe like many of yours. They represent that young woman who gets to look at a paycheck from her new job and take a deep breath for the first time in what feels like months. Remember when you got that paycheck that you think, oh, thank God, now I can pay some of these bills, right? Or the dad, think of your own families. The dad who finally gets to say okay with a smile when his son asks for new shoes for school, because God knows how much those sneakers cost. And the small business owner who realizes it's time to start expanding because her employees have the right skills and training to take on new projects. A job is more than just a paycheck. It's a path, a way to build the lives we want. And every American deserves the chance to do just that. Now, hopefully you've heard and will continue to hear about Bidenomics, Joe's economic vision. Everything I've talked to you about today is Bidenomics. My husband ran to rebuild the middle class, and that's what he's doing. With his vision to invest in America, we can bring people together and fundamentally transform what it means to make a life and make a living here in America. Now, I'm looking forward to hearing about the work you're doing to, connect people across Columbus to good jobs. So now we'll do the panel. So thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. Have a great summer day. Does it matter where you sit?
I will sit wherever you don't. Council President said this house is your house today.
Oh, and it's a beautiful house. Wow.
We're thrilled to have you here, and we're so proud of what we talk about as the Columbus way. We think we do public-private partnerships better here than anywhere in America, and I think folks with us today that are going to talk about this are really helping to head up that work, particularly as we talk about this workforce hub. And I know you're a champion of community colleges, and we're blessed with one of the best presidents of a community college in America here, and Dr. David Harrison. Dr. Harrison, you want to talk a little bit about what you're doing with your staff, your colleagues, and the incredible students at Columbus State to help prepare them to take advantage of some of these great opportunities?
Well, thank you, Mayor Ginther. Dr. Biden, at Columbus State, we always start with gratitude. And want to thank you, first of all, for being here today, and thank you on behalf of the administration for recognizing Central Ohio and Columbus as one of 5 workforce hubs. I know you're not here very long, but I think you're going to get a feel for what has prepared us for this moment. Since you were here 10 years ago, we have been working the process since then, and this really is a transformational moment, and it's the partnerships that the mayor talked about that have prepared us for this. I also want to thank the many faculty and staff and partners that are in the audience today with Columbus State. The work I'm going to talk about, they are responsible for, and they're doing it for the students that are sitting in the front row, and I'm really glad you all were able to get here.
To the students.
Yeah.
But as I said, we're looking at this as a transformational moment that we're ready for. We have, as a community, worked together to meet students where they are and help them reach their goals. And we've got an ecosystem in place that we think is second to none. The opportunity to connect federal resources with state resources, local resources, and private resources is something we think we do better than anybody. We've got some specific examples that really do lay the lattice work for building on this foundation. Mayor Ginther, President Hardin have been instrumental partners in a program called Columbus Promise, which guarantees full tuition support for every Columbus City Schools graduate, which has been remarkably important, especially post-pandemic. Our business community came together to match dollar for dollar what public resources came to be, and every one of our Workforce Advisory Council partners has stepped up to provide earn and learn opportunities for Columbus Promise students. Congresswoman. Congresswoman Beatty mentioned a recent partnership announcement with Ohio Health, where we're going to partner with them to double the number of healthcare professionals that come into the community, and that's going to have a specific focus on affordable pathways to really good jobs and improve health equity throughout our communities. And these examples have set us up for this moment, where we have new opportunities in clean energy, in biotechnology, and in semiconductors. Columbus State is working with the Ohio Association of Community Colleges to lead a statewide initiative with support from Intel called the Ohio Semiconductor Collaboration Network. It's designed to build out a common curriculum that will be a statewide asset, not just for Intel, but for the entire supply chain. We're not looking at this as the 2 fabs that are going into Licking County right now. There's going to be 8 fabs over the next decade or more, and the ecosystem of suppliers is going to be transformational in every community in the state. We are incredibly fortunate to have this kind of connection in Columbus, and look forward to continuing to work with you and the administration to deliver the goods. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Harrison. Next, I'll go to one of our great partners who represents kind of the heart and soul of our work in the Workforce Hub. Stephanie Hightower is the president and CEO of the Columbus Urban League and has been an incredibly long-term trusted partner on workforce development issues, and so want to allow her to share a few words about what she and the Urban League are up to here in our partnerships.
Thank you, Mayor Ginther, and thank you, Dr. Biden, for being a champion for educators. As you know, Mayor Ginther and I served on the school board together many years ago, and we just need to have those champions for our teachers. We need to make sure that we invest in them, and we need to make sure that we take care of our teachers because they are with our children. So, our educators are so important. But one of the programs that we're really proud of is our Workforce Readiness Training University. It is a county-funded program for about 400 youth, and the county this year has decided to invest, instead of it being just a summer program, it's going to be a year-round program. So what we do is we provide for 14 to 19-year-olds career exploration, internship opportunities, and then we build wraparound services for them and their families so that they can be successful. And so and they make about $15 an hour, so we make sure there's livable wages, and it's been a great partnership with the business community and many other partners here in the city of Columbus to make sure that we have that investment in our young people who, as you know, because of the pandemic, had a lot of challenges. And so now this gives us an opportunity to help them to prosper, to grow, to learn in a very safe environment, and a safe environment so that they and their families also have an additional income that's coming in for the summer and then also throughout the year. Another big partnership that we're really proud of is with the Workforce Development Board through Equus, and also working in partnership with Goodwill. And this is for our dislocated workers and our workers who need to be upskilled. And so we provide wraparound services, we do soft skill training, but what is really critical, we think, is having culturally authentic types of training programs for individuals who come from the Black and brown communities, because we know that there may be many other challenges that they are dealing with as they're looking for employment. And so we say at the Columbus Urban League, we don't judge. There's no judgment here. Whatever it is, how you come to the table, no matter where your neighborhood, your zip code, we're going to be here to serve you. And so we're really proud that those adult workers now are finding jobs, usually a minimum of $24 an hour. Again, this is about livable wage jobs, and we're really proud of those programs. And again, thank you, Mayor Ginther, for mentioning, and thank you to the Biden administration. We're looking forward to the apprenticeship program development with the National Urban League and the trades, because again, we've already talked to the superintendent, and she wants to make sure that our 17 and 18-year-olds are prepped and ready to go into those trades programs.
That's great. Thank you. Since we're talking trades, Mike, a key component of Bidenomics is there are many different pathways to the middle class, and never been greater opportunities for skilled construction trades jobs here and around the country because of the president's leadership. Talk a little bit about how this workforce hub in partnership with the Biden administration is going to help you in the skilled and construction trades.
Sure, and before I get into that, I'd like, with Dr. Harrison, I want to say thank you, Mayor Ginther, Dr. Biden, on behalf of our 100,000 men and women that put a hard hat on every day in union construction, and we are the industry here in Ohio. We can't thank you enough to Joe's vision. When you have good policies for infrastructure, Inflation Reduction Act, CHIPS Act, pension reform, whatever it is, you are now seeing historically over decades that people have talked, and different presidents, whatever it is, we're seeing the remnants, not the remnants, but the investment that's made on this thing. In turn, with the building trades, and here in Ohio, we have 80 training centers, all privately funded. We're very proud of that. It allows other tax dollars to go to places that could use it more than us. But we have 4- and 5-year apprenticeship programs. We have pre-apprenticeship programs that we work with our community partners with. And at the end of the day, after 4 or 5 years, it's an earn as you learn type format. You are changing people's lives, and the investment that we've been doing this for over 100 years. We've got this down. We're now doing it at a larger scale because of people like Honda and Intel and others. And we really appreciate all our owners, small to big, it doesn't matter. But we're the career pathway to the middle class. And this is not just a job, it is a generational career. It is one where you stay in the community, you build the facilities, maintain them, and you continue through your entire career. Now with this new transformative industry, whether it's semiconductors or whatever, it's more than just putting in your 4 or 5 year apprenticeship, going to a job for 30 years and retiring. You're going to have to update your skills on a continuous basis. That's what we do here at the Building Trades. We make the investment with our partners to be there not just today to build it, but for tomorrow and for the next generation, and we train that. And it's because of good policies that lends us to be the leader in this. So we have invested just here in Columbus alone, the pipe fitters, the electricians, I can name all the dozen crafts with this, have made historical investments, $10 million investment to the Pipe Fitters Training Center, all private dollars, $5 million to the sheet metal, another couple million to the roofers. It's historic on this, and it's to change young people's lives, both men and women. And so that's what we're about here. We talked today in our group ahead of time about what we needed to do with the strategic, but we left with this thing. We have no other choice but to work together in America, whatever it is, because all work has value. And we've always believed that with the building trades. We're appreciative of what everybody does, from educators. I have to give a shout out to my wife, retired professor, early childhood ed. And so she's a big fan of yours.
Love the teachers.
Yeah, loves the teachers. But we have articulation agreements around the state of Ohio. Every hour that an apprentice is going to school, and you mentioned this, they are getting credit towards an associate's degree. And then it becomes, you're just not a journey person, you can become an estimator, a quality control person, project manager, an owner, a contractor. It's upward mobility is what the trades has. So thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
And now some perspectives from the private sector. We've got Kevin Hoggatt, Director of State Government Affairs from Intel, that's here, and so grateful that you're our new neighbor and our new partner in so many different respects. Talk a little bit about what excites Intel the most about this Workforce Hub.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for including me in the conversation. I appreciate it. I'm Kevin Hoggatt, Director of State Government Affairs for Intel here in Ohio. And as you've heard, Intel's investing over $20 billion to build 2 leading-edge semiconductor chip factories, or fabs as we call them, here in central Ohio, about 20 minutes northeast of here. And you know, it's our field of dreams, as President Biden likes to call it, is the largest investment in Ohio history. And it's going to be transformational, not just for the Columbus region, but really for our entire state. What we're doing is we're bringing an entire new industry to Ohio. So in addition to us, there are 30 to 40 major suppliers who are looking at coming to Ohio. And we're really trying to create a cluster of semiconductor companies here in the Midwest. I want to start by saying thank you for the Biden administration's support of the CHIPS and Science Act. We're in the process of applying for that funding, and that legislation, which had broad bipartisan support from Ohio's congressional delegation, thank you, is so important to incentivizing these type of investments so that we can make more of these chips, especially the most advanced ones, here on U.S. soil and right here in Ohio. I know last year you had the opportunity to go out and see one of Intel's facilities in Arizona, and thank you for visiting, and I hope you enjoyed meeting some of our technicians and seeing some of our equipment. What you saw in Arizona, we are in the process of building here in Ohio, but it's on an even bigger scale, because as President Harrison mentioned, we've committed to 2 fabs, but our site allows us to build up to 8 fabs. So the partnerships we're building here and our work that we're doing on workforce, we really view our relationship with Ohio as a long-term relationship that will pay off for years to come. So that's the good news. On workforce, it's one of the most important issues that we face. So over the next few years, while we're building the fabs, there will be over 7,000 men and women in the construction industry who will be building it. Once we're operational, there'll be 3,000 Intel employees running it, and then we estimate about 10,000 indirect jobs from suppliers and growth as a result of us being here. So we've got a pretty big challenge ahead of us to train that and start from scratch here to Greenfield. But the good news is we're investing $50 million in Ohio higher ed to help create those career pathways, build those pipelines so that we're ready. And Columbus State's been an incredible partner. There are 8 total leads across the state and over 80 partnering schools statewide. So the geographic footprints, it's pretty impressive. And if you think of our 3,000 employees, 70% of that workforce will be what we call technicians that need a 2-year associate's degree or less. As you mentioned, we're working with Columbus State and Central Ohio Technical College to develop a 1-year credential to get more people into that pipeline. 25% of those 3,000 employees will be engineers, and that's everything from bachelor's, master's, all the way to PhD. And then the other 5% are support, so HR, finance, accounting, those types of roles. But the career pathways we're building and the partnerships we're developing with entities like Columbus State are going to be so important as we grow here in Ohio. I also want to mention that a big focus of the $50 million that we're spending in Ohio is on increasing the diversity of our workforce. Columbus State and all of our other leads know that we are actively trying to get more women and more underrepresented minorities into these STEM fields, to get into these great paying careers. And we have an aspirational goal here in Ohio of having 50% of our technical workforce in the fabs be female. So. The last point I want to make, and just to echo the mayor's comments, I hope one of the things you take away from your visit is the sense of collaboration we have here in Central Ohio. You have, our local government with the Columbus Promise. Our state government has made some significant investments very recently in workforce. The federal government with the CHIPS Act, the tech hubs, EDA, all of this coming together with our education community, our community partners, the trades, all of us working hand in hand, and I think it's unique for Columbus, or it's unique for the country, and it's something that the Columbus region's really proud of, and we've enjoyed benefiting from that.
That's great. Thank you. Really appreciate your partnership. Before we ask the First Lady if she has any follow-up questions or any comments she'd like to close with, I wanted to ask Congresswoman Beatty. I mean, when you think about all of the accomplishments that you have gotten done with the president, whether it's the rescue plan, the bipartisan infrastructure law, the Inflation Reduction Act, the first bipartisan neighborhood gun safety legislation since the Clinton administration you got done, and obviously CHIPS. I would argue, I may be a little biased, of one of the greatest track records for domestic agenda probably at least in the last century. Why is workforce so important to you? You talked a little bit about your amendments to the CHIPS Act, and quite honestly, it wouldn't have gotten done had you not gotten involved, rolled up your sleeves, and organized and mobilized the votes to make that happen. Talk a little bit about what workforce means to you.
Well, first of all, let me just say thank you, Mayor Ginther, and to all who are here. It's important because if you go out and you talk to the everyday citizen, they will say a couple things to you. I want my family to be safe, but I want to be able to pay my bills. I want a job. I want to make sure that I can put food on the table and a roof over my head. And so once you get beyond safety and health care, the number one thing is economics. It's workforce, it's the jobs. And the good thing about this administration, and especially President Biden, as the First Lady says, he's lived it. He understands it. And so when you walk into the White House and you're sitting down with him, the first thing he'll say is, no joke, this is for real. And so it's that commitment that passes on to us to create the partnerships. You will always hear him saying to us, reinvest in your community. He was unapologetic about what he was going to do. When you think about him not only making a commitment to workforce, thus all of the things that you mentioned, think about infrastructure with all of the jobs for everyday people. And here's the thing, we talk about infrastructure and roads and bridges and railway, but to education, to the students and the teachers. For the first time in the history, this president was able to add broadband. So when you think about advancing technology and your careers, broadband for the first time was a part of the infrastructure bill. When you think about infrastructure and equality and opportunities, it's because of this president that I was able to negotiate that $1.3 trillion infrastructure bill. When we were trying to decide which should be first, I remember Dr. Biden picking up the phone and calling President Biden's office and saying, I need help. And he said, it's not either or, it's both, because that will give us workforce. So for me, it's quite simple. It's about making a commitment. It's about reinvesting in our students and our teachers. And like many of you, my mother and both my sisters, teachers, 2 of them still teaching. As Dr. Harrison knows, we started at another community college where I became a tenured professor over in my hometown of Dayton. And it's okay to say it because he came from president there to here. And so we've had great partnerships. Labor has been a good friend, not only to the White House, but to all of us in Congress that support you in public-private partnerships. But what does that take us back? It takes us back to jobs, the economy, and the economics, because that's what people need. And so that's why it's so important to me. And lastly, I don't think we can forget that this president did it during a global pandemic. The worst thing that could happen to us, and he was relentless, he was steadfast, and he never lost sight of putting people and families first. And so that's why it's important to me. We've had great accomplishments. We were able to send monies for the first time again in almost 30 years back to communities and small agencies. And lastly, for me, most of the people in this audience know, as we talk about diversity and equity and inclusion is so important for me because we know we still have some challenges that we face for many of those who look like me. And so to be able to put inclusion and diversity and be unapologetic about saying it has to include Black Americans, it has to include women, there was no hesitancy. And all of that helps us have equal opportunities for all. So I want to thank this community for also being supportive of all of our partnerships and making me look good by showing up here today. I told the First Lady it would be a packed audience, there would be people in the gallery because we support her and the President, and we support all that we're doing here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Congresswoman. And Dr. Biden, we'll give you the last word, or if there are any follow-up questions you'd like to ask. We are just grateful for you to come here to start this tour of Workforce Hubs, and we can't wait to have you back as we report out on some of the great success we're making together.
Thanks. You know, I really, is this on? It's on, good. So I really feel like I'm at the right place at the right time. I've been a community college professor for most of my career. This is my 39th year that I'm just going to be starting. But I've always said, you know, I love community colleges. I see, you know, the potential of all of the students there. And I started as Second Lady by saying it was one of the best kept secrets in America. And people, I think, slowly started to hear and started to listen and started to recognize, you know, just who they were. And so for me, this is like a dream come true, because with my students, I saw not everybody wants a 4-year degree. Yes, it is a pathway, but there are so many pathways. And so now I think this is such, really such a beautiful way that, and I see the collaboration here in your community and how you're all coming together and you're finding jobs for young people, because that's what they need. And I know community colleges, you know, as we say, average age 28. I think my oldest student, I think, was 83. Wow. Yeah. So, you know, they're all ages, but that's the beauty of it. You know, that all these students come together and now they have a different pathway, something that's so interesting to them. And you mentioned broadband, and I went to Alaska about a month ago. Honestly, people in the village that I went to were crying because they had never had broadband. I mean, can you imagine not being able to access the internet? Think of your jobs, think of telehealth. And so now that Joe brought it, he's promised it during the pandemic, because we saw how many students could not continue with school if they didn't get on their computers. And there was is the inequity in America. And so, you know, I'm so proud of Joe for what he's doing, and that he promised that he would rebuild the middle class, and that's exactly what he's doing. But he couldn't do it without the help of everyone here on the stage, and without the help of, you know, all of you who are behind what he's doing and believing in him. And so I just want to say thank you. Thank you for giving up your summer afternoon, especially you students who were like, are you kidding? You're going to make me sit in a building for, 2 hours? But anyway, thank you for being here. And I can't wait to come back and see what you're doing and seeing your new factory and, just seeing how things go. Because, you're already successful. So thank you so much. Thanks. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Neighbors, please join me in standing to thank our First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden, for coming to Global.